Hello, this is Sahil, and this is Innerviews from Spiritual Tao. We have Ram Gudgila today, who is a Buddhist psychologist and a psychotherapist. And he has been a meditation teacher for a practitioner and a teacher for a lot of years. He's been a very dear friend for I think for over 5 years now. Is that right, Ram?
Yes.
Ram, today we will talk about your journey, about Buddhism, about Vipassana, about Buddhist psychotherapy. That's a new thing that I learned about you. And let me tell you a little about what it is that we're trying to do here. This is a project called Spiritual Tao by Near Foundation, and we're trying to basically gather as many um, practitioners who do different forms of meditation practices, get to know what those practices are, and talk a little about their benefits, their journey, and to bring these practices to our listeners and to whoever wants to understand more about this practice. So
Yeah.
thank you so much, first of all, for coming here. It's a pleasure to have you.
Same here. We're looking forward to have nice conversation.
Ram, sorry, your mic, I can't hear you. Uh,
So I said that I am really looking forward to have a nice conversation.
Thank you. Ram, so from the beginning, let's take it from this new thing that you've told me about yourself, which is you're a Buddhist psychotherapist and a psychologist. In
Yeah.
my understanding, generally Buddhism is a practice of, from a meditation standpoint, it's a practice of
Yeah.
Vipassana, and there are
Yeah.
other arms to it. What is
Yeah.
this arm that you're talking about? And you're certified also in this. Can you tell a little
Yeah.
about this, please?
So we all know that we have been understanding about Buddhism as a way of life or Buddhist practices as way of life. But along with that, we all know that now we should also try to see it as as a scientific piece of information which is given to the mankind by the enlightened one, the Buddha. Now, what has happened in all these years is we have seen it as in different pieces like religious practice, like a stream of thought, or a way to have a liberated life. But if we come to basics, how we can use this or how we need to use this is basically by bringing it into our practice because every day we deal with a lot of emotions. We deal with anger, we deal with hatred, we deal with love, we deal with intimacy. There's so many things which are popping up every movement. And in all these process or whatever is happening in mind, at the end, at the very base of subconscious mind or conscious mind, so all our emotions. And now we need to understand that how we embrace these emotions in a very nice way, very neutrally. And that's where the practice of Buddhism teaches us to accept these emotions and to accept the concept of neutrality and embrace it in such a way that we are more mindful, we are more easy, and we live our life in such a way that it's very easy going, it's very simple, and there is no complexity. And we also learn to handle our emotions in a better way. So
Nice.
that's what Buddhist psychology brings you, or Buddhist psychotherapy teaches you how to see your emotions as they are.
Now, this teaches this philosophy that you're talking about is, of course, the philosophy of Vipassana as well. Um,
Yes.
do you take clients who are now? Do you take clients and do you kind of um, look at them from these viewpoints? Do you
Yes.
suggest these viewpoints, or how does the conversation go?
Yes. So one thing is very simple. When a client comes to us, or when we have a client with us, he is basically coming with distress. So basically, it's something which is paining, something painful, where at the emotional level, and that not accepting things as they are, has not been accommodative, not been easy with what's happening in life. That's the first point where we say that the person has lost his connection to the present. So is either stressed with the actions or things, incidences happened in the past, or is overwhelmed with lot of expectations from future. And this is exactly the point where we have to put in the seed of Dhamma by bringing into present.
Hmm.
And this is the opportunity where we are trying to bring the person in this moment to understand what is happening right now with him and how he can neutrally see that. So this is the first thing what we talk to our clients, that acceptance of things or accepting things what they are, how they are, and being in this moment. And that will only come with a very simple practice which we talk to our clients is Anapanasati, which talks about being in this moment looking at your breathing, looking at your incoming and outgoing breath, and try to disconnect from all the chains of past and future. And this is one of the biggest opportunity for mankind, which we have got through these practices, to disconnect these chains of the past and future and try to be in the present. That will help us to reduce our stress and anxiety, accept non-acceptance attitude, and a lot of pain around us. So I particularly practice this. I bring people to this point of being in present, that is here and now. And along with that, there are different healing practices and other traditions of Buddhism which we use, called as the Avalokiteshvara meditation, which talks about healing yourself by listening chants, as well as healing yourself by just trying to be in the present moment by looking simply at your breath. So this is what we practice with our clients.
Brilliant. Wow, that's amazing. Um, you have been practicing Vipassana as well for a lot many years now, right?
Yes.
Can you do you also teach Vipassana to your clients, to your patients, or how does that work?
Yeah. So as per the tradition of S.N. Goenka, uh, he's our teacher to the world who has brought Vipassana to the world. So what we do is we try to train people for the very primary training of Anapana or the basic mindful practice. And for the bigger change or the bigger changes which we are trying to intend to see, we ask the person or we emphasize the person or we kind of counsel the person, teach the person to go to the camps so that he gets the benefit of the entire program. But what is important is we try to give this small mindfulness meditation courses in our clinics
Hmm.
so that this person once gets ready to go and have this entire long program. Because we always feel that whenever you are doing, like in the tradition of SN Goenka or from Sayaji Ubaki, this is very important for us to understand that this has to be learned in a very technically specific environment in which we take care of three things, that is Shil, Samadhi, and Pragya. So we have these moral principles in Vipassana courses that we don't talk, we don't give eye contact, we keep all things away, we disconnect from the society, and we try to be absolutely within us. That is
So,
Appa Dvipo Bhava.
sorry to interrupt, Ram. Can you explain what is Shiva, Samadhi, and Panya one by one to
Yes,
people?
yes. So very simply, Sheel is the basic moral and precepts which we need to practice. That we disconnect ourselves from people. We don't. We try that we make a point that we don't talk something which is false. We try to be away from sexual desires and all those things which will help you to come close to yourself. That's the first important thing which you can only practice when once you are in a very safe environment, that with a teacher or especially in a Vipassana center. Then you start having the mindfulness practices of Anapana. Be there. You try to see that every day your mind makes small changes and gets closer to you. And most important, that you learn the technique of Vipassana where you try to understand what's happening in your body.
So that is
And
Panya.
yes, and ultimately you try to accept the fact that whatever is happening is for a very small time. It's just anitya, that is just going to move on, pass on, and just to see it very neutral. This is how slowly and gradually we try to have those smaller moments where we are trying to see our pains and pleasures neutral. So the entire journey is to see your pain and pleasure neutral, because human being has a very interesting habit for these two things, to have a lot of engagement with pleasurable things and to have a lot of hatred to the things which are painful. And exactly where Buddhism stands is to be in between of pain and pleasure.
Brilliant. Can you explain or take a little bit of deep dive in the practice of one Anapana, and which is a precursor or a preliminary practice before people are taught Vipassana, and secondly,
Yes.
Vipassana? Can you take the viewers and listeners through that?
So to practice anything, you need to be at one point, and that point actually is to be physically stable at a point where you are disconnecting yourself by simply closing your eyes and going to a moment where you are trying to feel something which is most neutral in the human life, which we have got from birth, that is our breathing. And Anapana, if you see the technique of Anapana, it's simply breathing in and breathing out and mindfully looking at the movement of your breathing. It's so neutral that it is not associated with any kind of chants, neither any kind of religious practices. It is simple breathing. What we have got from birth is just we have just not been mindful or not been there to experience it. How it goes in, how it comes in, where does it touch, how is the touch, what is the pace of breathing, and everything is to observe, not to control. So there's a very interesting phrase or there's an interesting learning which we teach to our clients or which is in the text. Yatha bhut gyan darshan. Jaisa hai vaisa hai. However it is, just experience it, just see it, and then try to be in that moment. And then you'll have thoughts popping in, you going out with thoughts, again coming, again going. And ultimately, there will be a point where you'll be staying more mindful and the thoughts going up. So, this is a very important practice of Anapana where you are getting ready to see your body, the movements in your body, in the form of various actions, what are happening very neutral. So I would say that Anapana is the building block to go to a very good practice of focusing or concentrating and being and practicing Vipassana.
Okay.
That's the most important.
Right.
And when it comes to Vipassana, we basically are trying to see all movements in our body, what all is happening in our body, what are minor reactions like you feel like scratching, you feel heat sensation, cold sensation, and unfortunately we have always tagged things. We have tagged the pleasurable things as ours, and all painful is not ours. We try to pushing it, and this entire thing is happening in all our day-to-day practices. Like sometimes you travel on a road where you don't have traffic. That's a pleasurable thing. You feel, yeah, it's such an interesting thing. There's no traffic today, and I'm just like enjoying that. And at the same time, next day we have a very important meeting, and the road is fully flooded and crowded with cars. You start hitting that, and in all these processes, you are not neutral.
Right.
The entire practice of Vipassana is to see things neutrally.
Hmm.
Just experience them as they are. And I think majority of problems will solve in our life if we start seeing things as they are.
So, do you recommend people should do the 10-day course? Because I've seen a lot of different courses pop up all around the world in Bali, in Mexico, in Sri Lanka, where people are teaching how Vipassana can be done. What's your take on that?
Yes. So everyone has a different way of accepting and seeing things about the spiritual practices or whatever they can do. When I decided, let me go through my experience and let me bring that up. When I decided to take up some spiritual practices, my first and foremost prerequisite was I wanted to have a very neutral practice where I would not go for any religious practices which will have some elements where I have to perform something. So, most important thing I did was being neutral. All practices which have neutrality. Second thing is what happens is we usually are never taught to be with ourselves. So if you see, the world is framed like the current situation of the world is in such a way that you are more you are made pro to see the external things and get engaged out than to get in. So the best example is you have OTT platforms, you have parties, you have addictive agents. Everything is making 101% effort to pull you out from you up to out.
Correct.
And the entire crux of Buddhism is everything starts within. Everything starts within. So there is a very nice saying by Thich Nhat Hanh. He always says that to come out of something, you have to go in. That's very important for all of us to understand. So in this practice I always recommend, or whatever I have seen, that people have been practicing different practices where it is more of towards chanting something spiritual, doing some offerings or something. We respect all these traditions, but the most important tradition what Buddha has taught us to just look at the very simple thing that is breathing and just focus on it and just feel it. So I would rather say that whenever you have to decide on any spiritual practices, please go through it and then come on a conclusion. So don't generalize with people's opinion, right, of their experiences because it is good for them. So for all people who are really, it is in their wish list or bucket list to go to attend a Vipassana camp, I would rather say go neutrally, experience that, and at the end of the 10-day course, then decide whether it is appropriate for you or no. And this is exactly what is being told by SN Goenka. That You experience it fully, and then you decide what you want to do.
Right.
So
But
the first
also,
step is experience.
correct. Mike, I was trying to understand that is it, I mean, there are a lot of people now who are teaching Vipassana, not only SN Goenka, or there are many short camps of 3, 4 days that are happening in various locations by various teachers. And this is not an affiliation through the main Vipassana Institute. Do you think, what's your take on that? What do you feel about that?
So unless and until we are at a place where our moral values or our precepts or our shila is being practiced, it's the first welcoming place for any spiritual practice. If you go for any religion, any spiritual text, everyone will tell you about practicing moral values in your day-to-day life.
Hmm.
The first thing, if that is happening, put a checklist, you're on the right track.
Hmm.
Because this is something which is good for every human being. Like not being fake or not being too not being too fake in your behavior or not trying to just make out not just trying to create some unfavorable circumstances, be
Hmm.
harmful to someone. This is which is being told by every religion. So
Right.
if your practice of Sila is happening in the meditation camp, the first checklist is done.
Okay.
Second and second and most important thing is that's the first benefit which will immediately get. Now, when it comes to practicing the actual Vipassana practice, it's very important that the entire crux of Buddhism is first that everything is impermanent and you don't need to have clinging to anything. So whether it is good or bad, you don't have to cling. That means check whether your practice of neutrality is been happening in any of these training programs. Wherever you go, you have been just taught that to see things neutrally without clinging to things. If that is happening, put a next checklist. And most important thing is every practice of Vipassana, what is happening globally right now, the ultimate intention is you should see that change in your day-to-day life. If after doing 1 day camp, 3 days camp, 10 days camp, whatever camp I'm doing with any of the mentor or teacher, and if I come back to my normal circumstances and I'm similarly bouncing back the same habit pattern and behavior, that means any of these spiritual practices has not helped.
Fair. That's a
Like
very good
just
check mark. Hmm.
yeah. So when I was in a 10 day camp, I behaved exactly what was needed to be there. But as soon as I came back in my normal life, in my normal society, I started becoming the same person what I was.
Hmm.
This is a big cross. That means your direction is still not clear, or you have to take a lot of effort to bring that in your day-to-day practice.
Hmm. What are the benefits, Ram, that you've seen people who've been practicing Vipassana experience in your experience?
So, first and foremost benefit which I have seen is people have started seeing as they are without making any perception, and that is the biggest take on for any practitioner who does Vipassana is don't tag anything or don't try to stick with anything. So if you see these days, we all are now a generation of people who are addicted to social media. It is a very powerful tool to spread your wings in the world, but sometimes it can be a simple the simple tool can be an addictive or an addiction to a person. So Vipassana first tells you to see things in such a way where you balance your vision. That is, you try to see both things of it and then choose what you want. That's the first thing what I understand or what I've seen people getting benefit. Second thing is your emotions have been constantly going up and down, up and down, up and down. And because of that, you have always taken wrong actions. You have done wrong actions. They were harmful for you first and then for the people around. Now, what is happening is after doing Vipassana, you're being so mindful that you exactly know that the thing which you are doing is wrong or it is out of distress, and you are trying to correct it mindfully. Because Buddha has told in a lot of his texts everywhere, whatever text has been there, it has been very clearly said that you can't go and correct your past. Neither you can't make a plan for your future. What you can really control and correct is your present. So if at this moment, if I'm not repeating my same behavior, if at this moment I'm not being what I was in the last moment, or not being blunt, or all those negative things in my life which I was constantly doing, and I'm trying to bring some mindfulness for it. That is the best outcome of any spiritual practice, including Vipassana. So अगर कोई इंसान, if there's some person who is like constantly being very stressed, and after his practices he'll understand that the stress is going out of his life gradually. He has started being more mindful with things. Some people, like they like, I see many small young people coming to me. They have been faking around their personalities. They have been being one with their partner, with some other person. They have some other perspective of their personality. So when they start practicing, they come with a tune that I need to be exactly who I am, and they start making all these practices in their day-to-day life in such a way that the first benefit what they get is that they start feeling good. Their anxiety goes down, their stress goes down, and they're very easy to go in. So this movement is changing, and when this movement change, your future is going to change.
Brilliant.
All
Um,
effort here,
all effort?
all effort here,
Absolutely.
and now. So I'll repeat again. All effort should be here and now.
Brilliant, brilliantly said. And I think that's the essence of any good spiritual practice. If it's bringing you more in the moment, making you more present, allowing you to accept and see who you are. And when I say you, not just your ego identity, but how you feel, because it's very important for, I think, everybody to recognize that you can form your identity based on how you feel and not the other way around. Because a lot of people form their identity basis what's cool or what's right or what's the new fad, and it's really dangerous, I feel, because in the coming years, it could be a crisis of identity that they will go so it can be so dangerous because a person will just lose themselves completely because they will be off feeling, off touch from themselves. And I think Vipassana is one of the practices that just by design gets you in touch with what you feel, and by that it starts taking off all these layers of sankharas, as they call it, emotional memory that you've stored, and all these ignorant perceptions about yourself and the world that you've created, because you are now just being quiet and still, and you're being able to observe reality as it is, first in your body, and then you see the world as it is. And I think it's a very powerful practice. And thank you so much for teaching this to the world, and being a part of being an aggregator of this. And thank you so much for this conversation also, Ram. Thank you for coming here and giving your time.
Thank you so much. And I wish that this entire universe and the globe which we stay with a lot of meta practices so that everyone comes to one point where he's super comfortable, super happy, super easy, super uh, cool in this world, this current generation of what they want, how they want, in what way they want, without harming any single being, including yourself.
Absolutely. Beautiful message. Thank you so much for your time, Ram. And everybody, thank you so much for tuning in. I will share Ram's details on our Telegram group. And if you have any other teacher or any other practice that you would like to know about, or you would want us to get to you, please drop us a message on our Telegram group. Thank you so much for tuning in. Thank you so much, Ram, for coming here. And have a good day. Thank you, Ram. Bye bye.